Okay, well, good evening. My name is Megan Parr, and I'm the District 8 4-H specialist. I'm excited tonight to get to talk to y'all about record books. Record books are kind of a taboo subject for a lot of people. You know, they're really helpful and really handy and very useful for a lot of different things, but not a lot of kids want to do them because of the amount of work that goes into them, and it just is overwhelming at times. And so I hope that tonight we can break it down a little bit so that it's not quite so overwhelming. So with that, we'll just dive right on in. I can get this thing to move. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we always like to start with what is the purpose of a record book. Record books are very useful for a whole host of things. The first thing that I like to tell kids is that if you intend to go to college, this record book is going to be your best friend, and not just for that 4-H scholarship when you get ready to apply for that, but a whole host of other scholarships. Because the thing that these record books teach our students are things like record keeping. They teach us how to, they house all of the things that we've done through our entire 4-H career. So when we're looking at putting like a resume together, or we're looking at some sort of essay that we have to write, we have some built-in things already for some scholarship applications, as well as a built-in pretty much platform that translates over very, very easily to the 4-H Texas 4-H Foundation Opportunity Scholarship. These are very, very similar, and it's pretty easy to kind of copy and paste your project experiences, your leadership, and your community service experiences from one platform to the other. So that is going to be the one of the biggest purposes of a record book. Another one is to keep a record of the things that you've done. You know, one of the things that we like to tell our kids to do is to set some goals each year, which we're going to dive into in a minute, but to set some goals and go back from year to year and see how they've grown in those goals. Did they accomplish everything that they set out to accomplish? Did they, excuse me, did they exceed what they set out to accomplish? Did we not accomplish it? Did our goals change as we went through? But how did we grow as a 4-H member through that year? Another thing is when you get older, while a lot of kids are not going to appreciate this right now, but as you get older, it's fun to look back and see all the cool things that you got to do as a 4-H member. A story that I like to tell is, while I was an extension agent in Ellis County, we had a master gardener who came in, and it was record book season, and he brought me a package, and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to share this with you." It was his record book from 1946 that he still had. It was completely pristine. It was all put together with pictures and ribbons and all the cool things that he had done as a 4-H member through a couple of years. I don't think it was just that one year, but it was in 1946 is when he put this book together, and he to that day was so proud of it. And so that, you know, those are the things that we want our kids to look back on and be able to see all the awesome things that they've done. And in addition to that, it provides an opportunity for some competition at the county, the district, and the state levels. Every county has a county contest, typically, depending on how many books they have to, you know, for the kids to have an opportunity there. We have our district contest, and then of course, those senior books who win district will go on to compete at the state contest. Okay, so when we talk about record books, it is, like I said earlier, it is an overwhelming task for these kids to put these together. But I think if we can break it down into smaller bite-sized pieces, it's a little less daunting to do. And so the first one to do is goal setting. That's where we want to get started. We want to take our projects that we're doing for whatever 4-H year, and we want to set some goals. And you know, I see a lot, especially with our livestock kids, one of the goals that every kid sets typically is, I want to go out there and win grand champion. And that's awesome. And we want to encourage our kids to do that. But maybe another goal that they could set would be to place in the top 10 at their county stock show and make the sale, or to really advance in their showmanship skills. Or it could be something of, you know, how to really, I really want to learn more about the nutritional side of feeding my animal. I want to learn more about the selection of livestock, or whatever that is. And that livestock is just the one that I choose to pick on right now, because that's kind of the easiest one for me to pick on. But it could go into foods, it could go into fashion. We could set a goal of, I want to learn a new stitch, I want to learn a new cooking technique, I want to, you know, do all these different things that take us a little bit further from just maybe winning a contest or placing well at a stock show or whatever that is. But that's where we need to start. Set some goals, 5 to 6 goals for each project that you're going to participate in. Write those goals down. You can't just keep them in your head. You have to write them down and put them somewhere that you are going to see them very often. And as you go through your project experiences, refer back to those goals and say, okay, how is this experience helping me reach that goal? You know, is it setting me on the path? Is it steering me away from the path? How is this experience helping me reach that goal? And so that's where our county agents and our adult volunteers and our parents and our club managers all come into play. They can help those students as they set those goals, help guide those students down that road to accomplish the goals that they set out to meet this year. The second part of it is journaling. This basically comes down to write things down. Take a picture. I'll tell you the #1 journal that we have out there to use. Anybody know what that is? Facebook. It's social media. Facebook is the #1 journal out there, because you know why? We put everything on Facebook, you know, especially on our 4-H pages. Mama and daddy put stuff on their pages, you know, project leaders put stuff on their pages, whatever it is. Facebook is an awesome tool to house all these things that we did, because what happens? We're at a 4-H event, we snap a picture, we put a little caption with it, and we put it online. Okay, so when we're going back and we need to look back at all these things that we did, sure, we have our calendars of, you know, of all the activities and stuff, but we can go pull up that Facebook and see, you know, all these pictures, all these highlights, and all these things that of what we've done throughout the year. So journaling, write it, you know, if Facebook's not your thing, write it down, keep a record. I had a parent in Ellis County who, bless her heart, had 12 kids. And while that is overwhelming to me, I barely can keep my dog alive sometimes. She was so organized and so put together with the way that she kept up with all of her kids' activities and all the things they did. So she had a huge desk calendar, and every kid had a different color. And so they would write down in that color, you know, that kid's activities. And then next to that activity, it would put, you know, a time that they went, that they did, and maybe a little reminder of what they did at that activity. So that's the way they kept their records. Another way to keep these, if journaling or Facebook or that calendar option's not one that works for you, go get a recipe card box and a box of index cards. And every time you do some sort of activity, write it down, write the date down, write a little highlight of what you did, and put it in that box. So then when you sit down and you get ready to write your record book, you have those there. It's easy to put your leadership experiences, your project experiences, all those things together, because you already have them written down. And so journaling is going to be a big part of the record book experience, and making sure that we keep those good records of what we've done. The last part is going to be reflecting. And this is where we get to look back on the things that we did. We have an opportunity as we go through our record book process to answer some questions. 1, what did you learn from your project? You know, the #1 thing that I like to see in my record books is I want to know what you learned and how you grew as a 4-H member through that experience. Especially in your leadership experiences, I would like to know, you know, not just that you served as your club vice president and you assisted when the president wasn't there. I want to know specifically how that officer role helped you become a better 4-H member. What did you learn through that? Another question that we can ask our kids as we reflect on these experiences and as we get ready to write this book is, did you meet any of your goals? And if you did, what helped you attain those? You know, what experiences did we have? How did we feel about meeting those goals? Do we want to reevaluate those goals? Did we not meet those goals? And that's okay too if we didn't meet them. You know, that's part of life, and learning how to pivot when those challenges come up, and be able to adjust and reposition ourselves to go back down the road to reach them maybe next time. Another thing is, how did your project change, or how did it grow within the year or from previous years? You know, maybe we started with a foods project and we just started doing food show. We just started making something for the county fair. You know, we made a cake, or we canned some salsa or something like that. And then we saw, as we went through the years, we built up to now we have an entrepreneur who is maybe decorating cookies for as a side business, and they're doing those for people and they're selling them, and it's awesome because of the skills that they learned through their foods and nutrition project in 4-H. And so that's something that we want to see. How did your project change? How did it grow within the year or from previous years? Did we take it from that one thing that you entered at the county fair to this business or to this other contest or whatever it is? We want to know how you grew. Did you serve in any type of leadership capacity? Were you a club officer? Were you a mentor? Did you help coach teams? Did you help lead workshops? All of those are part of our leadership experiences. Another question is, what impact did your involvement have on you, your club, or your community? You know, your club and your community and your world are part of the 4-H pledge. And so we want to always refer back to that and say, okay, we have these experiences, we have these opportunities for our kids. What impact did you have on your local club, on your county, on your community, through these experiences that you participated in? And then finally, one of the final questions that we can ask is, how has your project and your project experiences impacted your future career choice? Did they point you down a road where you know without a shadow of a doubt what you want to do? Did they point you down a different road than maybe you intended to start on? Did they show you something that you know for sure you don't want to do? You know, and that's fine too. Weeding out the things that you don't want to do is just as important as finding the one that you want to do. And so all of these things, excuse me, add up to be the whole record keeping process. They all are part of our record book, but it starts with these 3 main parts: the setting of the goals, writing down our experiences of what we did, and then reflecting on those experiences and how we learned and how we grew from them. Okay, so let's dive into what the record book actually looks like. This is on the Texas 4-H website. This is our Texas 4-H record book summary. It's a kind of a cheat sheet that shows us all the things that go into a book. Excuse me, my allergies are getting the best of me tonight. And so we changed a couple years ago to where every age division is going to have the same report forms. Every age division requires the exact same sections, and all the report forms are the same. And so what is different are the page limits and the number of entries we can have in each section. This kind of gives you a rundown of that. You know, juniors are not quite as many pages or experiences as the intermediates, which are not quite as many as the seniors. By the seniors, we should have a good number of those experiences. Okay, so what goes in our record book? This is going to be the first page of our record book. It's our check sheet. It's where we put our name, our age division, our category, our county, our district. And as we go through each level in our competition, this book gets checked off, and this stays in the front of the record book. Okay, the second page is the personal information page, which is probably the most important page in your book, because this tells about who you are, where you're from, your 4-H club, your parent has to sign it, the member has to sign it, and your county agent has to sign it. We see a lot of books get to the district contest and the agent has maybe forgotten to sign them, which is not a big deal. We try to have a little leniency on that and, walk that book over to that agent, let the agent sign it. But when you get to the state contest, that is not an option. And so we just want to make sure that we have the appropriate signatures. You'll notice on here that it wants to know which 4-H club you're a part of and the number of 4-H members in your club. This information can be found with your club manager or with your county extension agent. Okay, let's dive in. The first section of our record book is going to be the 4-H story and photo portfolio. So what goes into a 4-H story? Well, this is all the things that you get to tell about yourself. You get to tell me who you are, who your family is, where you're from, what, anything you want to tell me about your community, when you joined 4-H, why you joined 4-H. Tell me what your main project is and some of your project goals. Tell me how 4-H has helped you become a better leader. What have you learned through your projects this year at 4-H, in 4-H? And what do you plan to do with these as you get older? That's going to be more important. For our juniors and intermediates, what you plan to do with these projects is not going to be quite as important as it is when you're a senior. The way that this is going to look is the title of this story is going to read My 4-H, whatever your record book category is, story and photo portfolio. For example, it could be My 4-H horse story and photo portfolio. You can add a subtitle to that if you feel like you need to, but that's going to be what we title that. One of the main things I want to emphasize here is when I talk about our main project, I mean the project that you have the most experiences in. And we're going to talk about projects in just a minute, but this is going to be the one that you are putting this book into that category. So if you have the most experiences in, let's say, a beef project, then you're going to have a beef book, and that's going to be the project that you talk about the most. While in your story, you can talk about your other projects, the one that you need to reference the most is going to be the one in which the category in which you are entering this book. Okay, so some helpful things for this 4-H photo portfolio and story is that the story shouldn't be just a repetition of the things that you're going to put in your report forms. The story is really a place for you to get creative in your writing and to really maybe tell some funny stories. Did you have something exciting happen to you? Did you overcome a specific circumstance? This is where you get to really show a lot of your personality and where you get to kind of be a little more creative. We're going to expand on the project work that you're going to list in the next section by telling more about the things that you learned and the things that you got to do through this. Did you get to go to some sort of workshop and learn from one of your, idols? We all have those kids that we look up to. Did you get to learn from one of those kids? Did you get to learn, did you get to have a really cool experience? Did you go on a super fun tour? Things like that. All of those things can go into this story. Do you have a funny story you want to tell? This kid gets embarrassed every time I tell this story, but I continue to tell it every year because it's just so memorable. He was a third grader, and his very first record book he did. In his story, he wrote, one of the questions we asked is, what project are you doing and why did you choose that project? And he said, I chose the goat project because I thought goats would be a little easier, but also I didn't want to show pigs because they're too stinky, and I didn't want to show sheep because I didn't want to stick my thumb up their butt. That kid is now a sophomore in high school, and I still remember that story to this day because it just was one of those things that was so funny, and it just stuck with me so well. So be creative. You can be funny in that story and really show your personality. The other thing that we want to include in this are pictures. While we don't want to completely overwhelm everything with pictures, we want to add some pictures into it that will help tell the story of what you're talking about in your text. You can put captions with those photos, anything like that. Use photos that show your 4-H member doing things. You know, if you're showing livestock, take a picture of that, put it in that book. If you're on a food challenge team, use a picture with that. Again, that's where that Facebook journal comes in handy, where you can go and you can pull a caption from that picture and pull a picture off there and insert it into this 4-H story. So that's where that comes in really, really handy. Again, the photos should not distract from the story. They should be adding to it. One of the things that we don't want to include are pictures that have nothing to do with your story whatsoever. Let's say you have a shooting sports book and you're talking about your shooting sports experiences and stuff, but you have a picture of you and your date at prom. That has nothing to do with your story. That has nothing to do with anything. You just thought it was a fun picture. Let's maybe put that at the end or at the beginning where it's talking about who you are, and not in the middle of telling your shooting sports story. Okay, wrapping up this section. Just some highlights to note is that we're not including extra photos for those photography books. They still have the same page limits as everyone else. Text needs to be double spaced if you type it, and using a minimum of 10-point font. Please don't put it smaller, as as a lot of us can attest to, is that the people that are reading these books and judging them tend to be a little more seasoned, and with that seasoning comes really bad eyesight, and so the smaller the text is, the harder it is for us to read. And so please don't go any smaller than a 10-point font. Again, the page limits on how many pages each age division gets are on that cheat sheet that I showed you at the beginning. And you can refer back to that for how many pages each age division gets. Okay, so let's get into our report forms. Again, a couple of things to note is that it's going to be the same forms for each age division. They all request the same content. The thing that is different is the number of entries that you're allowed and the number of pages that you're allowed. What we're going to put in here is we're going to put the current year and the 3 preceding years. And I'm going to show you how we can do that in just a second. Pasquale asked me about the online record book, and this is where this is going to come in real handy. That online record book is good for some things, and some things it's not my favorite at. Writing your 4-H story, it's a little easier to write it in Word, Microsoft Word, and put your pictures in and stuff, and then print it out that way. But what this online platform is really good for is putting in your project experiences, your leadership experiences, your community service experiences, etc., because it has tables already built for you, and you just enter in your information, and then it puts it in the table for you. The link to this is here is the 4h.zsuite.org. What you'll do is you will create a family profile, and then under your family profile, you can add each of your students. And these links are on the Texas 4-H website as well. It's a super handy tool to have, but again, I would still write that story in Microsoft Word. Okay, so let's talk about project experiences. I feel like one of the things I forget to do as we get into record books is talk about exactly what a project is. While we know a project is all the things that we're doing through 4-H, what we tend to not really keep in mind is that a project is not necessarily your livestock project or the 1 or 2 things that you do in the fashion interior design project. For example, I see a lot of kids say, oh yeah, here's my 4 projects. I have steers, heifers, livestock judging, and commercial heifers. Well, no, you have 2 projects. You have livestock judging and beef cattle. Those are your 2 projects. Or I did fashion show, fashion storyboards, Duds to Dazzle when I was a fashion interior design ambassador. No, you had 1 project, you had a fashion and interior design project. And so when we talk about projects, we're talking about all the things you do in one area. So if you have beef cattle, all the things you do with beef cattle, whether it's steers, heifers, educational presentations, anything like that, all of that goes into your beef cattle project. Okay. Well, and I said educational presentations, but those can also go into your public speaking project as well. But your project, experiences go into these different areas. So when we talk about project experiences, we're talking about all the really cool and neat things that you have done and learned that are related to your 4-H projects. This is your opportunity to tell the world, hey, look at all the cool stuff I've done. Look how awesome I am. This is where you get to not hold back and you get to put everything in there as your page limits allow you to. This is where you get to include activities like workshops, contests, tours, research that you might have done, computer learning programs that you might have been, that you might have used, where you've studied all these different plant names and all these different animal IDs and all these things, any interviews that you've conducted, anything like that. All of these learning experiences go into these project experiences. These learning activities may be completed in a project setting or may be the result of an independently conducted project. They may have been completed in other youth organizations or community organizations, but as long as we can connect them back to that 4-H project, that's what we really want to see. So, for example, like you might have a wildlife project, and you might have learned, let's say, knot tying at Boy Scouts, and that's part of the wildlife project. So you can report that in there as well. And so, those are some of the things that we can do with that. Again, you can include up to 4 projects. Each age division gets up to 4 projects. Maximum page limits, juniors get 2, intermediates get 3, and seniors get 4. One of the things I would suggest, because when you go to look at the report forms that are online, it's basically a blank page. So one of the things that we talked about earlier that was really helpful with the Z Suites was that they put it into tables for you with those project experiences. When you go to write out your project experiences, don't write them in paragraphs. If you write them in paragraphs, no one's reading them. I can almost guarantee you that. So put them in a format that is easy to read. Most often, those formats are going to come in the form of some sort of table, a table that has a different table for each project, where you can put in the years that you've done this project, all the things that you've done, and at what level you have completed these projects at, whether that was a local level, a county level, a state level, or a national level, or an international level for some of our students. You can put all of that stuff in there. As you get older and as students get more involved in these projects, especially those livestock projects, some things that are kind of cool to put in there is to see how those livestock projects have grown from just a show animal into maybe a business where they are now breeding and selling their own livestock, or they have a commercial herd of something or whatever, and to include a little bit of that information. We had a profit and loss of this many dollars, or this, we had 7 ewes, and we had 2 rams, and we had 12 babies that were born, something like that. Whatever you want, however you want to quantify that, that's perfectly acceptable to put in there as well. I guess the scope of that project is what we would call that. you don't have to get too complicated in that. I would say, especially for our younger kids, keep it simple. You know, what you did, what you participated in, what you learned through that, and the number of years that you've done those experiences. Everybody with me so far? Any questions? Okay, I'll move on to the next part, which is going to be our leadership experiences. Okay, so leadership experiences come in a whole host of opportunities. When we say leadership experiences, we most often hear kids talk about the officer roles that they have held, the officer positions that they've held. And while we want to encourage those kids to do that, leadership comes in a wealth of opportunities. It comes in so many different forms and so many different roles. And these can include, like I said earlier, they can be mentors. You know, we have a lot of our older kids that are helping coach livestock judging teams, that are helping put together food challenge teams, that are leading workshops, that are serving as ambassadors, or whatever that is. Those are things that we want to see in this leadership. Anytime you attend a camp, you know, we have 2 camps that are coming up here this summer for District 8. We have our county camp and Surge. Those are leadership camps. And especially for our older kids who are going and attending as a group leader or a workshop leader, that's leadership. Put that in your record book. And so you can do that. What we want to also include here is we want to include the level at which we did these activities, whether again that was the club, the county, the district, the state, the national, or the international level. We want to include the current year and up to 3 preceding years of activities. So our juniors get 10 entries in 1 page, intermediates 15 entries in 2 pages, and seniors 25 entries in 3 pages. So what I would suggest for those, when you get up to 3 preceding years, 2 preceding years for the juniors, is to put as many of the current experiences as you can first, and then go back from there. We want to include as many things as we can for the current year, and then add in all the other things that we did previously, if that makes sense. I hope that does. One of the other things I would like to see is there is a table for this, and I think it's already in the report forms. It is for sure in the Z Suites report forms. But one of the things I like to see, there is a responsibilities or what you did in that leadership activity column for each of those activities that you're putting in there. One of the things I like to see in that column is what you learned from that experience, what you learned from that role, and how it helped you grow as a 4-H member. You know, every club officer has the same description basically at every level, and so when we get into it, what sets you apart are the ways in which you were shaped by those roles. And so I like to see that. And I say that now for your record books, because that's one of the things that we really want to see on your scholarship applications. So if we're putting that in there now in our record books, we already have it done, and we can already just very easily translate that into that scholarship application. Okay, so we're going to move on to our community service projects. Oh, one other thing I want to talk about with the leadership before I move on. Leadership experiences, we have 4 different types of leadership experiences, and it's going to be in 4 different areas. So it's going to be promotion leadership, which is how have you told someone about 4-H? It could be kickoff nights, putting an article in the paper, talking on the radio, riding on a 4-H float, anything like that are going to be part of your promotion leadership. Then we have our volunteer leadership, and that's going to be how and what did I do to lead or teach others in 4-H. That's where those where you assisted with workshops is going to come in, or where you served as a mentor. Other things that are going to be for our younger kids probably are going to be leading the Pledge of Allegiance at a 4-H meeting, or demonstrating how to measure a tablespoon at a 4-H meeting, all the way up to organizing a 4-H workshop or giving a presentation on a specific topic. The next section is going to be Elected or appointed leadership, these are going to be our officer roles. What did you do to improve 4-H? It's going to include leadership and volunteering to serve on a committee like recreation or the refreshment committee, and serving in an elective office such as president or treasurer of your local club, county council, district, state, anything like that. Okay, so those are our 4 types of leadership. Okay, moving on to community service. So one of the things that I really like to note here is that there is a big difference between leadership and community service. And while that sounds very common sense, you'd be very surprised. These community service projects that we're going to do are going to be things that we have done to help other people because of 4-H. These are not going to be things where we served in any kind of leadership role other than organizing the service project. This is going to be pretty much where we have just given back to our community and had the opportunity to help others. And so in this section, we're going to include our year, our role, the activity, and the importance and impact. That importance and impact is going to be, tell me what you did and how many people were impacted by that opportunity. For example, if we did a canned food collection and we collected canned goods and we took them to the food bank, I want to know how many pounds of food did we collect, or how many cans did we collect, and how many people does that food bank serve? So tell me that. If we collected clothes and we donated them to a shelter or a clothing, I'm sorry, that word, I don't know what that's called. It's escaping me right now. We donated them somewhere. We want to know how many pounds of clothes did we collect, and how many people are they going to impact? It goes the same too. We want to get our kids out there and doing some more active community service projects where they maybe have a little bigger impact. And those could be things like assisting with a special needs stock show. It could be assisting with serving the homeless. It could be visiting the elderly at the nursing homes. It could be anything like that. But we want to know what the importance was to that student. Why was that particular project important to them, and what was the impact that they had? Some other things to note here. Again, you're going to include the current year and up to 3 preceding years, or 2 years for our juniors. Again, put all of your current stuff at the beginning and then go back from there. Juniors have 10 entries and 1 page. Intermediates have 15 entries and 2 pages. And our seniors have 25 entries and 3 pages. Questions about community service? Okay, when we talk about our community service, one of the things we want to talk about is our role. And so we have a couple of different roles here. One is going to be yourself. And if you did this community service project by yourself without any other 4-H members or any other person from your 4-H club, that's where you're gonna code that as your role was a Y. It was you yourself. We have a P that means that you provided primary leadership, means that you were the organizer, you made all the arrangements, and you helped recruit your other 4-H members to help you. And then the last one is an M, where you were a member of a group. When another 4-H member called asking for help, you were there as a worker and a helper. Okay. Okay, let's move on to our other 4-H projects. So we know that we have some pretty involved 4-H members. And so 4 projects might not be enough for you to report. So we have a whole section for you to report all the other projects that you are a part of. When we report our project experiences, we want to report those project experiences that we have the most in. And you don't have to report 4, you get up to 4. So you start with your most intense and then go down from there. And if you have more than 4, this is a section where you get to do that. You can list as many projects here as you want. Any projects that are not already listed in section 1. Again, you're going to include the current year and up to 3 years or 2 years for juniors. You're limited to 1 page for juniors and 2 pages for our intermediates and seniors. And we don't have to go quite as in depth on these project experiences as we did on the previous sections. But this is going to be just some that we can summarize the knowledge that we gained and the skills that we gained, etc. Okay, section 5 brings us to one that often gives kids a lot of fits, and that's recognition and awards. Okay, we're going to report these with the year, the level, the recognition, and the importance to you. This is going to be anything that your 4-H member was recognized for. It doesn't necessarily have to be an award. It doesn't have to be a gold star or a bronze star or whatever. It could be anything. It could be, I was recognized as 4-H member of the month, or I was recognized as whatever is important to them. I got a blue ribbon with my photo at the county fair. Whatever is important to your kid that says that they were recognized for something that they did in 4-H, they can put that here. Everyone has something to go in this section. Please do not leave it blank. Okay, we all have something that we were recognized for. It could be, you know, you did well with an animal, or you did well with a food challenge team, or whatever. Put that there. And then tell me why that was important to you. Tell me why I need to care about that experience for you. This could be anywhere, you know, again, any recognition that they got for their hard work and dedication to a 4-H project, leadership provided to others, community service activities, and of course, for being the best all-around 4-H members. So again, the entry limits, juniors get 10 entries and 1 page, intermediates 15 and 2 pages, and seniors 25 and 3 pages. Okay, then we get into our non-4-H activities. This is where we get to show off how well-rounded our students are. This is where you get to put in those breed associations, your school activities, your church activities, your other community organizations like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or whatever else you're involved in. Put in there your leadership activities, your service projects, your awards and recognition. If you got the attendance award at school, put that in here. Put all of those experiences in here and show off how well-rounded our students are. Again, you get the current year and up to 3 preceding years for intermediates and seniors, and 2 for juniors. You're limited to 1 page for all age divisions. Okay, the next section is going to, and this is our final section, this is the college and career exploration section. And this is where we're going to answer the question, as of today, what career would you choose? This is where you're going to say, okay, these are the activities and the experiences that I had that helped me decide that I want to be a veterinarian, or helped me decide that I do not want to be a pig farmer, or, you know, whatever that is. These are going to be where we put in all those experiences. This could be an interview that they had with somebody. It could be a tour that they did at a college campus. It could be any type of job shadowing, research that they did. You know, one of the things that is really cool at school is that kids get to do some sort of research at some point over some sort of career. Well, guess what they did? They just did some career and college exploration that now can go in their record book. This could be your work experience, your coursework and classes that you're taking at school, anything like that can go into this record book. One of the other cool things is that, you know, a lot of our 4-H contests are held on college campuses. So what does that mean? That means that every time we go to that contest, we have visited a college campus. Write that down in your college and career exploration. Stop by the Welcome Center and pick up a pamphlet. Whether you intend to go to school there or not, you just visited a college campus. And that is maybe helping you make a decision or making you decide that you don't want to go there. You know, that either way is fine. Again, entry limits, juniors get 10 entries, 1 page, intermediates get 15 entries and 1 page, and seniors get 15 entries and 2 pages. Okay, so those are all the sections in our record book. Do we have questions over those so far? Okay, so let's dive into what the judges are going to be looking for in these record books. They're going to be looking for quality experiences. What we like to tell the judges to put the emphasis on is not the quantity of experiences, because you could have someone that has 400 experiences, but they never learned anything. We want the good quality learning experiences that these kids really learned and grew from. And these can, you know, that's really what we want them to do. Record books are submitted for competition. They're evaluated on their project work, their leadership, their service, awards, and non-4-H activities. They're judged on the content. When they look at the record book, they take into account the details in relation to how long the 4-H member has been in 4-H. So for example, if we have a senior 4-H member who it is their first year to be in 4-H, we take that into consideration. And judge them on that, not judged based on, you know, okay, you're a first year 4-H member going against this third year 4-H member, fourth year 4-H member. You're not going to have the same experiences. You might, but more than likely you're not. And so we look at that kid's book and the quality of experiences that they have for how long they have been in 4-H. A good thing to see exactly what we break down and what we look at is is taking a look at the score sheet, because it really does break it down and it gives some point totals, and you know, we can go from good to bad in these sections and really break down all the different parts. And so we ask the judges to provide feedback for each of these sections. Okay, so let's say we've written our record book, we have it all put together, we have it all printed out. What do we put it in? Well, we need some sort of cover to put it in, okay? And the most common is going to be the green record book folder, record book cover. Those can be ordered from the National 4-H Supply. A lot of county offices have those. POSCO, I don't know if y'all have them there in Falls County, but a lot of county offices do, where the families can stop by and pay a couple bucks and pick them up there. If you choose not to use a record book cover like that, any type of cover is acceptable. I've seen everything from scrapbook covers or scrapbooks to like presentation covers to just regular notebooks. And so any of those are acceptable. And it kind of just comes down to personal preference. Some people really love the green covers. Some people like the black covers. Some people don't want to put them in a 4-H cover. They want to put them in something different. So it's a personal preference as to what you want to do. Okay, so some general guidelines. Handwriting. Handwriting any part of the book is acceptable, but what we ask is, if you are going to handwrite it, to make sure that it is legible, because if we can't read it, we can't judge it. And so make sure that it's legible. I would say that handwriting is the last resort, and to type it if at all possible. Grammar and punctuation. I don't care if they're 9 years old or 18 years old. We want to make sure that the commas and the periods are in the correct places, and that they're using the correct verbs and nouns and grammar and all that stuff that they need to use in their books. We do this because, again, we're always teaching our kids, and teaching them correct English is very important. The text margins, the top, bottom, and right margins need to be between 1/2 and 1 inch. The left margin can be 1.5 inches to allow for some hole punching and binding. We don't get real technical in our district on those margins, but just be mindful of that. We don't want to expand those too much, because then the text gets cut off when you put them into those covers. Paper type. We just use regular printer paper. You don't have to get fancy with anything different, just use some regular paper. The one thing I will say to not use is, we do not use sheet protectors or dividers. Please do not put those in your books. We will have to take them out if you do that. We want to make sure that it's just regular paper, and you just put the regular paper into the book. Creativity. Creativity is encouraged, and it can include the use of backgrounds, decorative elements. construction paper cutouts, etc. All of these can be throughout your 4-H story and photo portfolio. We ask that you maybe not put those on your project experiences and your other report forms because it makes it a little hard to write, but get creative with that story. That's totally fine. Again, with your fonts, color or black fonts are acceptable. You ask that you use a minimum of 10-point font, bigger if possible. Okay, just circling back to some things that we talked about earlier. The photography books will include the same number of photos as the number of photo pages as other categories. Your old report forms will not be included in your book. What you're doing instead of adding your report forms is you're adding those to your current report forms and just adding them at the end. And then we do have some updated categories, and those categories can be seen here with agricultural sciences, beef, citizenship and civic education, doctor and training, consumer education, entomology, fashion, interior design, food, nutrition, gardening and horticulture, goat, health and personal safety, horse, leadership, natural resources, photography, plant and soil science, poultry, public speaking, rabbit, STEM, sheep, shooting sports, swine, theater and performing arts, and veterinary science. Okay, so let's say we have a senior 4-H member who wins first place in the district contest, and then they go on to the state contest. What do they get from there? They then earn the opportunity to attend the Texas 4-H Leadership Conference, which is held during the Thanksgiving break. And this is where we take our kids to Washington, D.C. We have sent several kids over the last few years to on this trip, and it is super fun. They love it a lot. This does come at a cost to the student, and that cost is typically between $1,250 and $1,500, just depending on flights and food and things like that. But that is kind of one extra benefit to our seniors to completing those books, is that if they win the state contest, then they now qualify for that trip. Okay, that was a lot of information in a very short period of time, but we did record it so that if you have questions, you can go back and rewatch it and go from there. But if you also have questions that are not maybe covered, that we didn't cover tonight, or you don't find as you go back through it, please feel free to email me and I'm happy to answer those. With that, are there questions that I can answer now?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hold on, it's echoing really bad. Okay, one question I have. So one of my kids is moving up to intermediate this year. So for instance, just starting off on the 4-H project experiences, I noticed that it says intermediate 3-page is the maximum page limits. So we're supposed to use like her first year of intermediate, and then it says up to 3 preceding 4-H years. So that would include all 3 of her junior years as well?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I think that was the main thing. I'm just trying to make sure I understood that.
Yes, ma'am.
Correctly. So, okay, that was pretty much all I had to think. So. Okay,
good.
Megan, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, anytime.
Thanks, Megan.
And again, if y'all have questions that come up, it is recorded, and I'll put it on the YouTube so you can watch it there, or you can always shoot me an email and I'm happy to answer those there.